Good afternoon, everyone. And thank you very much for joining us during your lunch hour on the final day of this amazing conference. So thank you very much. I really appreciate you coming so we can put our heads together and try and grow the movement. So welcome to everyone who's here and everyone who's going to be watching or joining us on Zoom. A very warm welcome to you. We're going to be looking today at this idea of growing the movement, which is that planetary health education. I know this conference has been talking a lot about gaining momentum when it comes to what is going on within our spheres, whether it's in clinicians, academics, research, in whatever area of life we're coming from and going to, we have been focusing on the importance and the urgency for planetary health awareness and action. So it is from this very thought and urgency that we're sitting here together. I think over the course of the last 2 days, in the various side sessions and main sessions that we've had, we've realized that we need to find a way of bringing all this information, all this understanding, all this research into something tangible that will be able to pass on, not just now, but for future generations. So I feel that we are in a position to make a difference. If for anything, setting the agenda so that there is some sort of educational framework, some sort of educational guidance or toolkit that future generations can use. So I'll let you know a little bit about myself and where I'm coming from when it comes to this idea of planetary health. So I'm from the university that is based in London, so Royal Holloway University of London, which is a very fantastic institution in the sense that if you come there, you'll never want to leave. It is surrounded by nature, and in itself is the most incredible building. If we do have time at the end of this, I might just show you a couple of pictures so I can get you a bit envious of what it feels like to not only work for an institution that is very much grounded in this idea of planetary health, but also has a building and grounds that are congruent to that idea and encourage that. So I'm from the Department of Health Studies, which is a very new department within the university itself. Now, as part of this department, we sit in the School of Life Sciences and the Environment. And as you can see from that diagram, we are very much interdisciplinary, which is what we consider when we're looking at planetary health. So we're very much a part of that. The very foundation of our department is rooted in being in something much bigger than ourselves. So we've got earth sciences, we've got biological sciences, geography, psychology, and us as health studies. Now, with our department, and certainly the degree that I am working on, which is the BSc in Health Studies, we are trying to be as relevant as possible with a planetary health focus to what we're doing. So we've got the sustainability strand, which has made our degree very unique to a lot of the other health studies that have been rolled out across the years, not only in the UK, but across the world. But we thrive on being a transdisciplinary degree. We want and we acknowledge that for us to be solution-focused, we have to think more holistically. We have to think outside the box. It's not just about physical health. It's about engineering. It's about IT. It's about economics. It's about everything. So we're very much transdisciplinary in the way that we approach the department as well as this particular degree. Now, a core part of this is about making sure that when we have students who come in and buy into this idea of planetary health, that they get to understand where they're going to put all this knowledge and understanding to use. So this is something that we have been working very hard to try and encourage others like yourselves who are also in academia or thinking of creating similar degrees to consider the relevance and the application of the things that we are talking about in this room. So from all those researches that you have done, all those papers and those posters that you've worked hard on, it will be very important for our students or the people we're trying to educate to make sense of how that links to what is going on within their lives and their communities. So very much a part of our degree within the Bachelor of Science in Health Studies is about making that theory a reality and giving them that experience throughout the 3 years that they're with us. But we also are very keen on authentic assessments. Now, we had a conversation the other day about this idea of authentic assessments. So not assessments as we know them, where you'd give students a task and they go and research on something, write out a report, but we are looking at assessments where students can see how they will apply whatever it is they've written about. So we're linking a lot of our assessments to very practical application. So in terms of the placements that they do, they can write about their experiences, their understanding of the modules that they've covered, the modules that they've learned, and putting it into reality. So that way, not only are they invested in what they're studying, but they see the real applications of that learning. And ultimately, they become more solution-focused, which is what, as far as we're concerned, planetary health focuses on and differs very much from just global health. Very solution-focused, which then brings us to where we are today and Planetary Health Alliance. Now, for all of us in this room and on Zoom, you would be aware of this framework that we have, the Planetary Health Framework. And it's looking at those 5 fundamental domains that we are concerned about and we believe should be at the core of our knowledge, our values, practice, and certainly the transformational learning that we need to be instilling in our degrees and our courses. So I just want us to take a moment to have a look at those 5 domains and think about how any of the courses that we are running that deal with planetary health or are linked to it will be able to meet these 5 domains. These are values that we as educators, researchers, and certainly ambassadors of planetary health need to continually integrate in everything that we do so that that message can resonate throughout all our work, whether it's our research, our courses, whatever it is we do, it will be reinforced and it will be good for us as we're designing courses within planetary health to remember these key values. Now, we're all familiar with these values. Now, here's the issue. How do we bring it all together? So we are aware of the values of planetary health. However, we've got key challenges. Throughout the last 2 days, I heard fantastic suggestions of what needs to be done, case studies of what has been done and worked in different communities, in different countries. But what seems to be missing, or certainly not well articulated, has been this idea of building a movement that is relevant in context and deals with the key issues of access. And that's where I wanted us to have a conversation this afternoon and do a little reality check on where our key issues or concerns should be when not only designing courses, but when we are trying to build a movement. So let's just have a look at this diagram for a moment. So on the context side, we've got key issues like cultural competence, We were talking about different strategies that we can use to get communities to preserve certain parts of their well-being, to change the way they do things, lifestyle, etc. But in most of these suggestions or these findings, we are not necessarily being culturally adaptive to the different settings. So it is a call this afternoon for you, in whatever research, whatever area you're looking at, to have that lens on when you are thinking of something. How does this translate in a different culture? How would this be received in a different state, in a different country, with people with different ways of looking at things? And I think that if we begin to put a really fine lens on all the work that we are investing our time in, we'll find that it will be better for everybody else, all the outcomes, if we manage to be more flexible and adaptive when applying the findings of our research. In all this idea of planetary health, we've got this issue of valuing diversity. It is important for us to understand that what matters to you may not necessarily matter in the same way to another person. That could be because of where they come from, how they've been raised or not raised, what they've got access to or not access to. So it is important that, again, as we're delivering this movement or spreading the word on this movement, that we remain aware of the diversity in people and certainly remove that colonial way of thinking that this is the right way to do, this is the developed way, this is the modern way, to remove that kind of language that can distance instead of bringing us together. When looking at the context of what we're going to be doing in terms of building this movement, it is absolutely important to grab hold of those shared values. Now, it doesn't matter where we're coming from, because I can see we've got about 6 or 7 different countries of origin in this room right now, at least. But one thing is certain, we're all here because we've got a shared value. So when we're creating these degrees, these courses, these modules, it is important to find that area of shared value and start working with the shared value. We are very fortunate that we know what our shared value is, and that's the connectedness between the environment and human health. So when we bring communities together, when we bring researchers together, when we bring academics together and realize that we do have a shared value, we'll be able to build this movement a bit better, a bit quicker, and in a more coordinated way. It is important, as we are creating our courses, our degrees, doing our research, coming up with our initiatives and projects, to always put co-production and partnership at the core of what we do. For a very long time, we've had this way of working where we've got experts in the field who come and tell the people they're supposed to be supporting what to do. Now, we want to get away from that. If we are looking or coming from that shared value perspective, we need to understand it's about co-production, because it is all our world. It is one planet. No one has more power than the other when it comes to our thoughts, our ideas, and our interest in it. So it is important that at every point of building a course or creating a course or a module on planetary health, for a level of co-production and partnership to be at the center of that. Co-production with the people that you intend to share the material with, or who you intend to benefit from the education you are trying to share. So co-production is going to be a very big part of what we do, and we need to keep that at the heart of everything that we do. Last but not least, in terms of context, is language. Over the years, we've heard developing countries, underdeveloped, developed. And all of a sudden, the conversation has changed now. The developed countries, with the fossil fuels, with the good ideas and the developed ideas, are beginning to realize that actually maybe this change and this development has actually done a bit of harm. And all of a sudden, those underdeveloped or developing may have had it right for a while. So language is going to be a very important part of how we build these courses. Having a language that is empowering, a language that acknowledges that we may not have got it right when we were developing. And go back to that idea of co-producing and partnership working, where we begin to value how developing or underdeveloped countries are still looking at and preserving that shared interest or shared value. So that's just a little bit about the context of what we need to consider when creating these courses. All fair and fine, we know how to do these things. We can be culturally competent. We will value diversity because we know that. However, we do have real issues, access. So we may have this well-made program or well-made projects. We've done the research. We've got real evidence, a proper evidence base that says this would work. But most times we forget that the people we are trying to get a buy-in to this idea or to empower lack access. So in our creation of modules or courses, we really need to think clearly about this issue of access. So you can tell me, as a woman in Zimbabwe, where I'm from, to stop doing certain things. I shouldn't overfarm, I shouldn't overgraze, I shouldn't overdo this. But if it is the only form of income I have, we've got a problem. I will not buy into your solution. I may have the shared value of wanting a better world for my children and my grandchildren and everybody. But because we have failed to recognize that I am limited in resources, I will not buy it in. So it is important that we consider access and tailor-make the courses that we are running or the projects that we are intending on rolling out, taking into consideration those barriers, those inequalities that exist in the communities that we want to share this message with. So access is going to be a very big challenge or barrier to us building this movement, us building this momentum on the importance and the relevance of planetary health. Think of the culture. And when I talk culture, it's not just about coming from a different place. It could be a simple culture that is related to gender stereotypes. Who is going to be educating? So I may be all excited about this and know everything about it. But if I am going into a community that does not value women educating, everything I'm about to say is going to fall on deaf ears. Think about access. Think about what it means to a community to have someone coming to talk about these things, the political implications of that. Where is the access? Where's the permission coming from? Or who's restricting, or what is restricting those permissions to engage? What are those barriers that exist? Because the one thing is clear, we do have shared values. We all want what's better, but clearly there are a lot of barriers in the way. So in our research, in our creation of courses, of material, of building this movement, let's take a moment to be sensitive to the access issues. The socioeconomic conditions, if that is all I have, no matter how great your solution is, it's not going to work for me. Being aware, being more person-centered or community-centered about your projects about your suggestions, about the applicability of the courses you're about to roll out, being relevant to that particular group of people, and mitigating and removing all the barriers that may cause a hindrance to accessing this education that you're about to share. Another area that we need to be aware of when creating and certainly trying to build momentum for this movement is this issue of reliable information. So we are in a conference that has got a lot of experts in the field, a lot of research has been done, and we are an alliance that has built some level of credibility within the industry. And it is important that when we are creating material, we try as best as we can to align ourselves to those values that are linked to planetary health, so that we can have a consistency within what we are saying. The information is reliable. So if anyone was to check what we're all about, we would get to the same idea, the same values, those 5 domains we talked about earlier, or we saw earlier. Our information has to be reliable. It has to be consistent. Without reliable, consistent information, we will lose any trajectory, any steps, any movement we've made on this planetary health education. So it is important that we get the right information out there. And on that note, our hubs. We've got different hubs. It is important for us to engage with our hubs. The European hubs, the American hubs, the African hubs. If we don't talk, if we don't coordinate, we're not going to be singing from the same hymn sheet. And we need to do that. So it is important that we recognize the value of being connected within those hubs, the value of sharing information, of collaborating, standing in solidarity when it comes to this movement and supporting one another, so that that reliable information is shared across the globe. Resources. I'm sure everybody knows no one has enough money to do anything. We never have enough money. But we are very fortunate, again, having these hubs, having this alliance, and coming from the organizations that we come from, where you have a resource, share. Where you have a funding that you think might be of benefit to another, let us know. Share that information, because it's all about building the movement. There's no point in you hoarding all the funds or knowing about a grant that's available and just keeping it to yourself. If we are going to grow this movement, we need to think more as collaborators, partners in what we're doing. So let's share across the hubs, across the alliance as a whole. Let's share these resources. We're not just talking monetary resources, expertise. Share your good practice, what has worked well. Share your challenges so that we don't make the same mistakes. Question things so that we can open our minds to critical thinking. Experience things together like we have done. This sharing resources. This has been one of the most empowering conferences I've been in for years, because we heard diverse opinions, experiences. We threw challenges out there. We asked questions that are making us rethink some of the things that we do. All this is a resource. We are resources. And the people we are trying to share this movement with are the bigger resource. So it is important for us to recognize that and gain and give access to this kind of resource. Transparency is going to be important. Why are we doing what we're doing? Why do we care so much about this environment? Is it a hidden agenda? Is there a hidden agenda? Are we going into remote communities and saying, oh, we want you to do this because we've got a side agenda? Transparency is going to be important. In whatever we do, let the agenda be known. And I think that agenda goes back to those shared values. We want better outcomes for everyone and the environment. And last but not least, this idea of accountability. We have made mistakes in the past. I know certainly when I was a young person, many moons ago, we were told about the ozone layer. Now this would be like years ago. And after a few years of this going about and everybody getting all excited about it, it fizzled out and died a very agonizing death. Does anyone talk about the ozone layer anymore? When was the last time you heard about someone having a full-blown conversation about the ozone layer? It's like, oh, that was yesterday's news. Let's focus on something else. Accountability. We have started something. And I'm hoping that we're going to be accountable to the generations to come, to not let it fizzle out just because we are done today. Last day of conference, and then the passion, the fire, the ideas fizzle out until the call for papers comes in a couple of months before the next conference. Accountability. We have been given a torch to build the movement. We've been given a fire which has been lit under our bellies, I hope, to go and do something. I do hope that we're going to be accountable, each and every one of us, in your own way, wherever you've come from, a level of accountability that will allow you to push even when you think, oh, I can't do this anymore, to connect when you think, oh, you know what, I'd be better off by myself, to keep going because we've got a shared value. Now, having said that, I'm going to open it up to you guys to try and find out from your lovely selves, having been here for the past 3 days, what you think we should do with education in general. What should we put, or what's missing, or what should we take out when we share this movement or when we pass on this movement? Any ideas, any suggestions, any issues? It's over to you. Please feel free to say something. Keiko, do you want to come up, please?
Yes. So thank you very much. I'm Keiko from Tokyo. So thank you very much, Barbara, for the very nice and tuning to everyone to commit to the movement building. Yes. So I have learned a lot in the last 3 days, and then there are many things are ongoing for the planetary health education. And then I think, and as an PHA, Planetary Health Alliance, so if we will have some, we definitely need case studies, examples on the education, and then a bit of guidelines. Well, it's fantastic you have the undergraduate specific course. But in our community, so for example, I am in charge of a planetary health class and Master of Public Health. So there is the presentation about how the medical school include the planetary health education. And of course, and also we have some education opportunity with communities. So the setting, there are many settings. And therefore, to build a movement, well, education definitely necessary, and then target audience, well, sometimes specific undergraduate or specific postgraduate education, but also there are many different settings. And then I think already today, this time's presentation, there are different setting education, and then define them, and then but a little bit analysis or something, and it's sort out in this situation. this type of education has, and then in terms of these key points, what is the advantage, and then what is the lessons. But also, I think it is very valuable to learn diversity of teaching. I think it depends on context and then also the region. But yes, I have learned that many groups are trying their best to do best planetary health. But we as a group, in the process of learning, and then it's a kind of, so then also it needs a lot of contribution from the members. And then maybe at this stage, and as a group, it's on a first stage. So maybe that will be upgraded. But if something we can do that, and then definitely so for example, Ministry of Education in your individual country, if they have some guideline for planetary health education, it's easier for them to include. If for example, I approached the ministry, and so this is a new curriculum, but it's better. So this is a proposal guidance from the Planetary Health Alliance. So it's the reliable and then globally tested. So this is the best knowledge in our field. So why don't we put this curriculum in Japan? So then many countries can start such movement. Yes, I'd like to propose such so synthesis of an education program, and then to create some of the common things. And then also we should include those components. And then without that, so many times we have some difficulty. So why this complex things should be put into the planetary health education. But if PHA have such recommendations, so we are doing this one. This is the latest way to do. So I think this is what we can do as a group.
Thank you very much, Keiko. Thank you very much. So what Keiko is saying there about having that education and, I suppose, supporting each other, which reminds us we do have education hubs within our hubs. So I think we do need to draw from those as well and start that movement and start talking and sharing what we've got, because then that would help us, again, be reliable and consistent about what we are sharing. So there are quite a few people who already have degree programs going on. Certainly at the Royal Holloway of London, where I'm from, we've got this BSc that is coming in and is very much planetary health heavy. But we also have masters that are already ongoing. So when we're looking at empowering each other and supporting and growing the movement, we've got to look at drawing these resources. But it can be very tedious to go through 20 different courses. But when we do work together within these education hubs that we have and passing the good practice, we will do what Keiko is saying about bringing it together, so we can say as part of that we're doing that. Jenny, and then I'll take Ursula. Do you want to come up, because they can't?
For those of you who don't know, I've worked with Barbara, so we both work at Royal Holloway. One thing, because I'm also on the education working group for the Planetary Health European Hub, and one of the things that's been quite a lot of discussion within the working group is the different levels of education that you look at. So whether whether we should be aiming at primary schools, high schools, undergraduate, masters, onwards. And actually it has to be all the way through. But I think it's also looking at where that fits within the education curriculum and where you can kind of encourage, both kind of aim that education and then encourage the education system to take it up. Because, and one thing that's really occurred to me just kind of here is in the UK, there's been a move over the last 10 or 20 years to look at high school students who are aspiring to be doctors, who want to go to medical school. Traditionally would have done biology, physics, chemistry, A-level. And there about 10 or 15 years ago in the UK, there was a real push, because essentially the education system moved from it being normal to take 3 subjects at A-level to taking 4, or to take sometimes sort of 3.5 or 4. And for that extra one to be usually the sociology or psychology, but something that kind of helped doctors to relate more to people. And it also strikes me that 4th one could be geography. It could be environmental science. So you're actually looking at that environment so that you perhaps look at, okay, this is the high school, and this is where this would fit into that. It's really interesting. One of the projects I run is in Kenya. And in Kenya, there is subsidised agricultural training for school children, which is trying to encourage children to go more into farming, but kind of to understand farming. And so again, there's a set way that you could start to bring this in to some of that agricultural training. And again, there's not necessarily any reason why you couldn't bring that into UK education as well. One of the things we're looking at to do in the Kenya project is to encourage garden planters, that you can literally, you know, in a small space or even a balcony, you could start to be growing some of your own herbs, some of your own green leafy vegetables. So you're kind of getting almost that sort of growing bug. And I think some of that as well is actually thinking about where this could fit. You know, we were very lucky. I came from a geography department. I started to develop the courses as an MSc within the geography department, and then the university decided to create a health studies department. So we had a ready-made route into that. But does this fit? You know, if you're in London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine, not only where does this fit, but where are you drawing the students from? What are you encouraging them to do on that route into that? You know, we're deliberately a non-clinical department, so where are we drawing and how are we going out and reaching those different levels of education along the way? And I think that's somewhere where we can really help each other, because we're all going to have experiences and know where where that fits within our own education systems that might give kind of ideas to others. And if it's, you know, so to me that 4th A level of on the route to medical school is an obvious place to be really pushing that in the UK. But there'll be equal things that could fit in a similar place in your countries. And I think if that can be fed into the working groups, you know, through your own hubs, and you know, one of the things that I'm with the European hub working group. I don't know if there are those similar working groups are replicated across the other hubs, if they're having the same conversations. But if they are, we also need some horizontal knowledge transfer between those education working groups as well. And I think that sort of, as we're planning where this fits and what those curricula are and how we fit them together, we need to be thinking of that at every level. You know, by the time somebody comes to choose their master's degree, almost if they haven't thought of planetary health yet, it's a bit too late. And it was interesting going through the applications from our students. Most of my students come from a clinical background. They're usually doctors, nurses, physiotherapists. We have some dentists they've worked for a while, and actually they're fed up with seeing people who are ill coming to them for them to clear up the mess. They want to understand more about why people get ill, so they can hopefully go back and influence their countries to stop those people getting ill in the first place. And I think that's such a refreshing attitude to it. They're not using the term planetary health. It's not necessarily a term they've seen before, but that's their mindset, and then they find our course. And if we can go and find where those people are earlier, hopefully we'll be stopping those people getting ill earlier down the line. So I think that to me is really important, is actually looking at what are the education systems that this fits into, and where is the obvious open door to get this onto the school, whether it's school curriculums, whether it's university curriculums, whether it's master's curriculums, whether it's research councils you can influence. There are open doors that probably don't realise they're open, that we just need to walk through, and it's really finding where those are.
Thank you very much, Jenny. Ursula, please.
Hi. Hello, my name is Ursula Georgioglu from the University of Vermont. What I'm going to say overlaps a lot with these 3 speakers that we have right now. But I was going to suggest education with place-based education. So, you know, under my view, base standardized curriculums, as you suggested, are great in an overview of the image of our planetary health. But this can be more effective if goes together with the place-based education. So the regional approach to planetary health. Very important to keep all these wonderful values, shared values, and the partnership in constructing this knowledge together. So,
thank you,
yeah.
Ursula. Thank you so much, Ursula. Anyone else want to add? Yes, Emmanuel, do you want to come down and add something? So it's lovely to have students in the room as well. So again, co-production and partnership. After all, it is about education, so we need to hear the young people's voices in this. Emmanuel?
Thank you very much for this opportunity. My name is Emmanuel, and I'm from Nigeria. And so my point of view is that we have to be really careful in our strategy towards building curriculums, because in Africa, where I come from, the main objective of education is sometimes we sometimes lose the focus in along the line when we start the education, whatever it's called. And in my school, my friends over there, and he can quite well agree with me, most of the objectives of education is just bugging us with information. The sole objective of the program, as it were, is actually lost along the line. It's actually undermined. So I want to just implore this community, as we strive towards pushing out planetary health awareness into our education system. We should make sure that it's not just teaching me for 4 years or for 3 years or for 2 years and just loading with lots of information, but I don't even really know what it's all about. I can't do anything solution-oriented. I'm not sure what I want to do with planetary health. I'm just concerned about getting an A or making a good grade, and I really don't know what planetary health is all about. And that's just what I want to just say, that our curriculum should be designed to introduce practicality, give us activities to do, give us projects to do, and not just lots of notes in class and assignments. Thank you very much.
Very well said from the very people we're trying to get on these courses. Thank you very much, Emmanuel. And it is very poignant when you hear a young person saying, don't just give us stuff, make it real. What is this all about? Because I think from a lot of the countries we're from, we're used to this idea of just passing on information. They want the reality of it. How does this apply? What do I need to use? Where do I use this? And this is where, I suppose, with our degree in health studies, placement features heavily on that, so that they get to understand year by year how all those modules that are being taught can be applied. And that allows them to find their place, to locate themselves within the wider context of planetary health and where they really fit, where their passion is, where their skills are, where they're best suited, where their shared values are loudly represented. So it is important that we do that. Yes, Asad, do you want to come over, Asad, please? Thank you. It's just that we can't capture you outside of that. Thank you, Asad.
So actually, my name is Asad. I'm a PhD research fellow at University of Oslo. So when Barbara gave it, I think in the first night of so when I saw this course, like 3 masters and the BSc, so I think the strength of this program is not only the BSc program, also the master's program. So the students who will start the BSc, they will find some post-graduation degree or some, what he mentioned about what they will fit in the next part of education. I think the global health, human health, environment, the first thing. The second thing is society, culture and behavior, and the food security. So all these 3 are quite aligned with this BSc program and the planetary health. And this is very important because lots of discussion I found in this conference, annual meeting about the planetary health education. But then I have not found many programs like this is a standalone. So that is very important, that this should not be standalone. There should be some way of the students where they will do it next, how they will utilize it, and what is the next episode. In my recent article, I showed that there is a huge gap between Global South and Global North, between the courses, between the curriculum, lots of things. And then I will just comment that I will expect that in this program, you will have some places also for students from Global South, some percentage of the people or students who can share their experiences, who are actually the victim of the climate change. And this participation would, I think, for the case studies, if you develop some case studies or thesis part or something, that will really help this program a lot. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Asad. Thank you, Gloria. No, you can come, Gloria. Thank you very much. For those of you, I know we're running out of time. For those of you who would like to have a look at the leaflets, we've got them here. It's pretty much about the degrees that we have. But what we've also done, and I might as well mention that, is in building our curriculum, we've linked it to the 17 Sustainable Goal Divide. Yeah. Okay. So we'll have Gloria. Gloria, you'll
Very
probably
quickly.
finish
Thank
us
you,
up.
Barbara. I'm giving my perspective as a PhD candidate that learned about the Planetary Health Framework after the master's, and I think it's a wonderful framework that, as someone mentioned earlier, just unifies everything. I just want to shed light on the language. I mean, everything that you listed here, Barbara, is amazing, and it all fits together. But in developing courses, I want to add on the imagery to the language, because there's certain places in the world where certain images are used to describe certain things or paint an image of something, and one aspect of planetary health is hope. And seeing images that just make me feel hopeless don't really make me excited about actually working on something. So I'd just like to add that imagery is powerful, and it could instill hope or do the opposite by making people feel hopeless. But that was just my addition. We're out of time, but yeah, thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everyone, for coming, and I look forward to seeing you guys again. Please, let's connect. If you do want to get in touch, please do not hesitate. Details are there. I've got the leaflets of the degrees that we've got going. They've got QR codes at the back if you want to take that. But please do get in touch, and thank you so much for building the movement, and lovely meeting you all. Take care.